Hi you guys, welcome to my little paintbrush. My name is Miss Cammie and I'm really excited that you are here with me today to paint this raccoon. Before we get started, I want to just give you a few tips that will help this be a really fun, successful painting experience for you. Number one, and most important, is to always remember that we are different. We are at different levels, we have different personalities, we see beauty differently. Therefore, our paintings are going to be different. So accept that and enjoy that. We're grateful for that because that's what makes the world a beautiful place. Second of all, remember that you can pause, rewind, fast forward throughout this recording. So if you feel the need to stop and take a break, or maybe I'm going too fast and you need to catch up, that's totally fine. Paint at your pace and we should be able to get through this together and have an awesome painting at the end. So let's grab a big brush and get it wet. We need to loosen up our bristles. We're going to go ahead and start with our background, whatever color that is for you. For me, I chose a really, really light green. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix that together to the color that I want, making sure that my brush has a lot of water in it because that's going to help it just go nice and smooth onto my canvas. So as soon as I have that, I'm going to start to fill in my background. I like to start kind of further away or not get too close to the main object at first. This just helps me to be able to go quickly and fill in that space with very little brush strokes happening. So here we go. Just fill it in. If you're painting on a canvas, go ahead and wrap that as you do your background. We're really big on wrapping our canvas at our studio. It just helps you have a nice completed piece of art that you can then immediately hang up or put on a shelf and display it. So go ahead and wrap your background color around the edges of your canvas. All right, so you see this goes on really quick. It should go on pretty quick for you. The trick is, again, thin paint and really load your brush, okay? Now that I've gone further away from my cute little raccoon, I'm going to get closer. You can see I just press my brush. The bristles flare out a bit, and it helps me to be able to get a nice edge around here. Now, obviously we don't want to get too much paint, too much of this green inside of our cute raccoon. But if that happens, don't panic and don't try to fix it right away. Let it dry and then go back to it. Also remember, for me anyway, and maybe this is the case for you, my background color is super light, so it's not going to affect so much the dark gray and the black that's going to be inside of my raccoon. So I'm not going to worry too much if I get a little bit in every now and then, but I'm going to do my best. Whoops, there we go, right as I say that. I'm going to do my best to stay out of it as much as possible. And just fill that in. Remember, this is step number one, and it tends to be the step that we always panic about, but it's usually the step that we don't hardly notice at the end of our painting. So keep that in mind. We're going to have our flower crown and we're going to have all these other details that the eye is going to be drawn to. So don't spend your time all concerned and being super OCD about your background. Just get it in there, okay? Let's go ahead and wash our brush really good. I've got 2 jars of water by me. That's important. One I'm going to try and keep clean for diluting my paint. The other one's going to be for washing. Okay, so I'm going to set that brush aside and switch now to a smaller flat. Maybe you've been using a smaller flat this whole time. No big deal. I'm going to get it wet. And now I'm going to start to mix together a light gray for my raccoon. So I'm going to take a little bit of black. It doesn't take much, you guys. You can see it immediately just gets to work. So start with a little bit of black. You can add, but you can't take away. So I'm going to get that nice gray that I want. I think that's just about there. And I'm going to add some water to make sure it's got a nice, good consistency to it. And then I'm going to start to fill in these ears up here first. Super cute little ears. And I'm going to start to go around here and just fill this guy in. See, whenever I get up to the edge of an object that I want a nice crisp line, I just press my bristles. They fan out and they leave a nice straight edge behind. So that's a good tip to remember. Also, we can approach our canvas different ways to get different brush strokes. If we approach our canvas on the toe of our brush, we're going to be able to get into smaller sections. If we approach it the flat of our brush, we're going to be able to fill more space more quickly. All right, so we're going to come down here and just start to go around that section. I want to get some nice clean lines here. Okay, and we're just filling this in right now, and there's a lot of fun things here to fill in, right? We've got a lot of detail in this face. Just go ahead and give it your best effort here. Obviously, we're going to have some white in there, so we don't want to get too much of that gray in those areas. But mistakes happen, and it's okay. Again, if something like that happens and you get gray somewhere you don't want it, the best thing to do is just leave it alone, let it dry. When we try to tackle it right away, it just creates a bigger problem. So kind of let it dry, and then you can go back and you can kind of fix it a little bit. There's always a solution to fixing your painting. All is not lost. That nose is going to be black, but if you want to fill it in, you can, just like that. Okay, so we've got that section finished. Now we're going to go down here to kind of like these cute cheeks. Fill that in. Just nice and easy. If you're feeling overwhelmed with using a flat for this step, of course you can switch that. This is my brush of choice, but we all feel comfortable with different sizes of brushes. So you can totally switch to a different size. Just remember, the smaller the brush, the more strokes you're gonna have your brush leave behind. Okay, now we've got this little, there's a little curve right there, so we wanna make sure we give that, indicate that that's happening there. And then we'll just fill in this cute little stomach and chest area. His arms are hiding. Just like that. Awesome, you guys. Okay, we're gonna make sure our paint is staying nice and thin. It's gonna dry up really quick on you, so keep going back to your water. And we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of shadow around this cute guy before we wash our brush. So I'm gonna dip the edge of my brush in some black. And I think I'm gonna start up on the ears and just take that dark edge and follow as best you can that shape that you're working with. It can be really tricky. This kind of blending can be tricky, especially with newer artists. So if you want to practice maybe on a plate or a piece of paper, you can again pause this and go ahead and do that. Practice is really important to success in anything, so feel free to go ahead and pause what you're doing and do a few practice rounds. More than anything, you want to make sure you've got a nice dark edge around your raccoon. And the longer you can carry that stroke, the better. That's going to give you a nice cleaner line and a cleaner look to your whole painting altogether. But really that depends on the load of your brush and how thin your paint is. If your brush is not holding a lot of paint, or maybe it's too thin and your canvas isn't, or too thick and your canvas isn't taking it well, then that's going to be a real frustration for you. So double check on that. All right, so we've got that area finished. We'll go ahead and come down to a little chin area and do the same thing. Just right along the bottom there. Same thing over here. And this corner is kind of tricky. You kind of got to go to the toe of your brush to meet that right there. Which is really key in painting. If you understand your brush, that's half the battle. Okay, so let's go ahead and go up here. Get these cute little arms in. We'll also go around that white area here. And then if we get up in here, we can kind of clean that up real quick. So pretty forgiving that way. All right, let's go on this side now. Again, just following our shape. Always look for the shapes. You can find the shapes, then you'll be able to have a lot more success. All right. Just want to darken this side up just a little bit more. Want it to really stand out. Just like so. Anytime you maybe feel like you have too much or not enough of black or the white or the gray, go ahead and wash your brush and then just reload. I'm gonna do that, rinse it, and then I'm just gonna make sure I've got good coverage, which you can do as well. Sometimes one coat just doesn't give us what we want, so we can go through here and just kind of blend and brighten these areas up. Make sure they're nice and well blended into that darker gray section, that little shadow area. Awesome. All right, coming together really well. Now we're going to do our darkest sections of our cute little raccoon, which are gray as well, but it's more of a deep charcoal. Okay, so I'm going to bring a little bit more black this time, and we can mix it just right there onto that lighter gray. We're done with that now, so we don't have to worry about saving any of that. And it takes a bit more black this time, but we want a nice gray that we can obviously tell the difference next to the lighter gray, but also not too dark so that we can see our black eyes when we paint those in. Okay, so go ahead and get that. And now we will fill in those sections of our raccoon. So let's start up here. Now, of course, if you'd rather just paint right over that eye instead of trying to paint around it, you can go for it. If you want to just keep the placement of it, then you can just paint around it. Either way. Maybe you're doing a different eye, maybe it's a winky raccoon. If that's the case, you can just paint right over those circles. I'm going to keep my circles so that I have a good reference point. And just fill in around his little nose and eyes. Super cute. You'll start to kind of see this all coming together as you painting along here. Sometimes it's hard to see at first what's going on. But then as we get in these layers, you start to see it, and it's super fun. Okay, let's go over here to this one. Add some water to my paint. I can tell it's getting a little thick. Same thing, we're just going to fill it in. You can see those edges just clean up super fast. Come around here. We can always get a detail brush if we feel like we can't get everything with this flat, but I'm going to get as much as I can with it. I just feel more comfortable with my flat brush, and I can get a lot more area covered a lot faster, and that's what I like, so I'm going to stick to it. Just like that. You can see I didn't worry too much about perfect circles. I just want to remember where they are, okay? All right, so that part is done. Let's go down to our cute tail here. Let's go ahead and paint in those stripes. This is going to have a black line all the way around it. So as you are worried about clean edges down here, don't let that get to you. Just fill it in. You know, make sure it's nice and clean inside of the tail, but don't worry about the edges around it. Get it as best you can, but we will outline it. And it'll be nice and crisp. This little bend right here. Okay, looking good. Do this one over here, same thing. You can always tell your brush needs water when your stroke stops breaking, or starts breaking, sorry. When your stroke starts to break and you're not able to cover your canvas, if you can't just run your brush over it and it covers up your canvas, then you need to check both the load, you know, do you have enough paint on your brush, and you need to check your consistency. Those two things will make a huge difference. Okay, before we wash this out, let's go ahead and give a nice highlight just by dipping half of our brush into some white. And let's go along these cute stripes here and just give it a little bit of light. All the way down. We'll do this on each one. Now if you're more comfortable flipping your canvas for this step, go for it. Flip that canvas, all you need. You don't have to have it sitting upright the whole time. It can be on its side, it can be upside down. I even paint a lot with it on my lap, although that's not good for your back. it does help me get certain areas of my canvas. All right, there's one little section of our tail that I can't reach with that flat, so I'm going to switch to just a little detail brush and load it with that gray. And then I'll come over here. It's this little back corner here. I'll just fill that in just with my little detail brush, just like that. Oh my goodness, looking so good. I hope you guys are feeling good about your raccoon. Now we are going to sketch in real quick our flowers, just the center of it. So if you've got a pencil laying around, grab it. Even a piece of chalk works too. Just make sure your surface is dry before you do this. So we're going to just put in the center of each flower. So we're going to come here to the middle of our little raccoon's head, and we're just going to put almost like just an oval or egg-shaped, it's just a reference point, okay? And then I'm going to have my other flowers kind of pointing the other direction. So I'm going to put this one in this way. Might even come more inward. And you can erase on your canvas, so that's nice. But your surface does need to be dry. So just remember that. And again, they're just reference points here. Okay, I like to put those in so I kind of know where I'm going. And then I'm going to grab, I have a number 6 round. I'm going to grab that, get it wet, and come over to my brown here. I'm just going to add a little bit of black to it. Gives it some nice depth. And some water. Make sure it's nice and thin. And then I'm going to fill in these little ovals that I just made. Okay, just come around here and fill them in. Nothing fancy, nothing perfect, because we've got lots of little details coming this flower's way. So we're just going to get that first layer in. Give us a good reference point. Okay, just like that. That's all you got to do there for now. So we'll go ahead and wash that out. But while I have this round and making sure it's nice and clean, I'm just going to clean up my white sections of my raccoon. So I'm going to come into my white paint here, make sure it's nice and loose. Okay, and then I just want to make sure that anywhere along here that maybe I've gotten paint in, or maybe I just want to clean up my edges a bit, I'm going to go ahead and do that. This is a good time for that. So I got some paint down in here. Just want to make sure that it's all cleaned up. Obviously your canvas is white, so if you don't feel like any cleanup needs to happen and you feel good about where you're at, that's awesome. You can totally just leave it. But I'm just going to do a little cleanup here and there. I feel like I'm kind of losing this a little bit. So I'm going to go back to my darker charcoal color. And again, it's totally fine. If you're starting to get a little crazy in areas, there's always a solution. We'll just clean that up a bit, just like that. And it's no problem. All right. I'm loving it. Let's go into our ears. So back to my medium flat, And I've got a super light pink, so I'm gonna make some really, really light pink. Super light. I've got quite a bit of brown left in my brush. You really have to scrub those brushes good. But I'm gonna make sure this is nice and light, okay? Paint will dry a bit darker on our canvas than it appears on our plate or our palette. So just keep that in mind too. And we're just going to fill in these ears with this really fun pink. Now, of course, if you're doing this and you've got all different kinds of colors to choose from, switch it up however you'd like. Make it your very own. You can do this color for the background instead of having it in the ears. There's just a lot of fun things you can do to switch it up a little bit. So feel free to do that. And then we're going to darken that color up just a touch with some more red so that we can kind of put a shadow around it. So after I darken it up, I'm going to rinse my brush, fill it, and then dip the corner in some of that darker pink. And then I'm just going to carry that all the way around my ear. And it just helps that ear pop just a little bit. So we'll do it on this other side. All the way around. Try and get that whole stroke if you can without picking up your brush. It's a good test of your paint consistency. Awesome. Rinse it out again. Okay. Let's go back up to our cute little flowers and just put another quick layer of brown in there. You'll learn that brown is kind of one of those tricky colors that need a bit more attention. Some colors like more attention and brown does. Just gets lost really easily. So we're just going to add another layer really quick to that and let it dry. And while that dries, let's fill in our eyes. So I've got my flat brush because I like to do circles with a flat. I'm much more comfortable with that. Go ahead and load it in the black paint, and then let's go ahead and fill in those circles. And we've got that reference point that we didn't fill in. And we can use that to our advantage here to get that eye in. And I love that even though this is up against a really dark color, the eye still pops. You can still see it, and I love that so much. Let's go ahead and do this one. All the way around. See, I just try and press my bristles out and get a nice clean edge there to that eye. Fabulous. I'm going to go to my littlest brush now to put my nose in. So this cute nose just curves right here. And then we can just fill that in. Nice and easy. Whenever you're filling in with a detail brush, just make sure you're really quite gentle with those bristles. Otherwise you will give that detail brush a bit of a bad hair day, and it won't give you many details after that. So just be nice and gentle with it. And shape in your cute nose. This raccoon has a lot of fun personality. Just want to capture that. guys were doing so well. I want to go up to my ears with this black, and I just want to outline that pink. I want to make sure that you can see certain sections of the raccoon that might get a little lost. So I'm going to do a little bit of outlining, but I'm not going to focus on outlining the entire raccoon. Okay, so we're just going to focus on a few areas. Make sure that paint is thin whenever you're outlining. Nice and thin paint. We're going to focus on outlining a few areas, but not the whole thing. So if you're feeling stressed about outlining, don't worry about it. It's just going to be very little, and it will help certain areas of our raccoon kind of pop and not get lost. And the ears are one of those areas. So we're going to get the ears, and then we're going to come down to our eyes here. This white part of our eye, we're just going to go around it. I can tell my paint needs more water. I want to be able to get more of a brush stroke than I'm getting. So I'll water it down real quick and then finish this off here. We're going to bring this line all the way down to our nose, just like that. Then we'll go ahead and shape in around, just like this. Super cute, coming together. So cute. All right, I'm going to let this side dry before I try and tackle that side. So I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to shape in here. I'm going to do this side, just like that. See, so just very little outlining here. And I told you we'll do the whole tail. So we'll start doing that, and it kind of waves a little bit because of course he's all curled up here. All the way around, just like that. Come over here. Now if you're watching this and going, oh my gosh, my brush is not going across my canvas like that, really check the consistency of your paint. You need to have almost a watercolor consistency to your paint in order to get that. So this little section just goes in a little bit just to show off that crease right there. All right. Loving this. Before I finish this other half of my outlining, I'm actually going to buzz up into my flowers real quick. So don't let that confuse you. Just because I tend to put my fist on my painting and I don't want to put it in my outlines. So I'm going to let that dry a minute. I'm going to go back to my round. I'm going to start putting in the petals of my flowers. So watch this step carefully. We're really going to use the shape of our brush is going to be our best friend for this step. I'm going to make sure that all the brown is out. This brush is holding it really good here. I want to make sure that all of it is out as much as possible before I get started. And then I'm just going to spin that brush so it keeps a nice point. Now we're going to go up here and we're going to start to use the pressure of our brush to put in our petals. And we're going to start at the top and we're going to press into the base of our brush and into that flower, okay? Down here, same thing. I'm going to press. We're getting into that brown part. We want that. I'm going to come to each side, do the same thing. Okay. Drag it in like that. And then when you have those 4, then you can come and do one in each center of those, just like this. All the way around. Maybe your petals will all look a little different, but don't they anyway? So that's what you're going to do. It looks kind of silly, but that's what you're going to do to start off this sunflower. And then we're going to go over here and do the same thing on these, except our petals are going to be a little bit smaller and even more small as they come around the bottom of it, because we want the illusion that this flower is kind of pointing this other direction. Okay? So, but we're still going to start off kind of giving ourselves a little bit of direction here. But again, they're just smaller on this back end of it than they are on the front. So just like that, that's the start of our sunflowers, okay? We're gonna let that dry for just a second, and we're gonna go back to finishing our outline. So we just kind of jumped around here for a minute. Loosen up my black again, make sure it's nice and thin. And then let's go ahead and finish our outline. So we're gonna start up here. Carry that brush as far as we can go until we need to lift up our hand. And then around. All the way down to the nose. All right, and then we'll come and we'll finish off this side. Looking so cute. Tilting its little head here. Okay, that is all the outlining. But we're going to go ahead and put the little smile here. Little smirky smile. And we'll go ahead and do our whiskers. Just like that. You want to go fast with these so that you don't have time to really think about it, okay? So just own it. Wash out our brush. Let's move into some white paint with that little detail brush. Make sure it's loose, just like so. And then the base of our eyes, we're going to put kind of a smiley face. This will help them stand out quite a bit, which we need because, of course, it's a black eye on a very dark background. Rinse out our brush. I'm going to grab my biggest brush and dip the bottom in white and work on my highlight here in my eye. So I'm going to do a nice bigger dot on each eye here. You can kind of swirl that around a little bit if you need to. Sometimes if your paint is too thick, you're not able to get that nice dot that you want, so you can thin out your paint a little bit if it's causing you problems. And then I'll do a smaller reflective dot right below it, just like that. All right, let's go back to our sunflower petals. Load our brush here. I think I'm using, yep, let me grab the right brush. So we're back to our round. Put some white on it, and we're going to go over to our yellow. We want these background petals to be our darkest value. So I have white on my brush, but not a ton. Okay? So you can see I've kept it pretty dark. Now you're just going to go over those petals with this yellow. Okay? So you're just going to go over each one with your darker yellow. Again, pressing down into the base of your brush as you go around. Press down, just like that. We'll do these petals. Doing the little ones. Then we'll do this side. Nice and easy. All the way around like that. Okay, we'll just let that dry for a second. And let's put a few freckles on our little face here. So let's dip in our black paint, just the bottom. I'm just going to put a few right here on this face, like that. While I have my detail, I'm going to get some white on it, spin it real good so it leaves me a nice point. And then I'm going to come and make sure that you can see these whiskers by just kind of putting a highlight right on top of it. You can see that helps them kind of pop out from that black. Okay. We are so close to finishing up our painting. If you're feeling a little bit tired, that's normal. But stick with it. You're almost done. I'm going to load with black on my flat brush, a little bit of white, so I can put a highlight on the top of my nose, just like that. Okay, let's go ahead and add some cute little leaves around our flower crown. So I'm going to take a little bit of black over here to this green that we use for the background. I'm going to darken it up just a bit. Might be surprised that you dig into black for that, but you can see it just gives it a deeper shade here, a deeper value of green. I need this to be thin. That's really important. Remember, we need our paint to be thin whenever we use our detail brush. So nice and thin paint. Get the color that you want. And then this is freehand. This is all about where you want it and where you feel it looks good. So I'm just going to start putting some little sprigs out here. Brush might need a little more water. Just start going for it. Putting these in our cute little Raccoon's flower crown. Putting them all over, and of course when our flowers are all completed, we'll have a nice finished crown. Let's go ahead and put the little leaves on this on these flowers, on these little stems. It's really, really simple. You're just using your brush. Okay? See, it's almost the same as the petals on your flowers. You're just letting the brush do the work and almost using your brush like a stamp. And just pressing down. And you can see it just fills it right up really quickly. And don't think too much about this step, or else you'll start to have it look a little unnatural. Yeah, let the leaves fall wherever they fall. Just putting it in here. All the way around. Sometimes I even put some extras, like they're kind of maybe falling. You can see this is really quick step, and I've learned the less time I spend thinking about it, the better I like the result. So you might be thinking, oh my gosh, slow down, but truthfully, I tend to be a little OCD and I want everything perfect, and then I step back and I think, okay, that does not look natural at all. So just stick them in there real quick, give your brush a nice wash. Let's do our last layer on our sunflower petals before the lightest yellow. Again, we have to do it with white first, so I've got my brush here, and I'm going to go in between these now for my last layer here. So you can see this is going to come in and fill in that sunflower really nicely and finish it up. It's going to look nice and completed. So if you were stressing about that, now you can see it's going to finish it right off. Come over here to this side, do the same thing. Remember, you want these smaller petals. Make it look like your sunflower's kind of tilting. Give that a second to dry. While it's drying, we're going to get our littlest brush out again. We're going to use the bottom of it like a stamp again, like we did for our eyes. I'm going to loosen that brown up a bit, some water so it does a nice dot for me. Okay, and we're just going to put in some little dots here and there. Kind of fills in this empty space. And these can go wherever you want them to go. They're a great filler. Just helps give that extra touch to your painting here. So just dot those around. More pressure is a bigger dot. Less pressure is a smaller one. Just like that. Got a little bit of green here and there. Put my fist in it. I always do that. Home stretch, you guys. It's looking phenomenal. I hope you're just loving it. I'm going to put a little white on my detail brush, and I'm just going to gently brush a little light in some of these leaves and stems. Again, this can go pretty quickly. You're just lightening these areas, and every leaf can have a different amount of light in it, but it does kind of capture in the end when you look at it and it's got that light coming through. So we'll just kind of add that in there. Brighten up the painting a bit. Awesome. Okay, let's get ready to finish up our sunflowers. Let's grab our round, get it in some brown, add some white to that brush a little bit. Let's just make sure we've got light within our sunflower center here. So we're going to put the light facing this direction on these other ones. Just like that. And even if we lost some of that middle, we can bring it back here. Sunflowers are fun because just depending on where they're facing, they're going to have different response to the light. Just like that. Cute. All right, let's go ahead and finish up our sunflower. Last step on this, I need a nice big scoop of white over here to my yellow. I want a nice light yellow, much lighter than the first layer of those back petals, because I want them to be in the foreground and I want them to be super light. So I'm going to make sure that this is super light. Okay. Mix it up really good. Here. And then I'm just going to go over that white that we did with this lighter yellow. So we're just going to go right over that step, just like this. Okay, so we've got the darker ones in the background and the lighter ones in the foreground here. And if you need to, kind of come down and make sure that base is covered, just like that. Just make sure there's enough paint down there. Sometimes these lighter colors are a bit of a struggle against the dark ones. Then we'll go ahead and we'll do these little flowers here. And of course, if you're feeling like you want to switch to a different brush for these smaller petals, you can. Just going to get those in just like so with that lighter yellow. And again, we can come through and thicken it up just a little bit if we can't see it very well towards the base there. And the other thing that you can do as well is you can get your littlest brush, your little detail brush in that darker yellow. You can kind of go back and make sure that one in the back is really standing out. Sometimes yellow will need, more layering. And you can totally do that just to make sure that these flowers have those values in it. Just like that. Help them stand out just a bit. So they've gotten a little bit lost. And help those other ones kind of curve and point in the direction you want them to. Okay, you guys, I think we are finished with our painting. And make sure the base of these petals, you want them to kind of curve down here. So kind of add that little curve if you need to down at the base. Awesome. You guys, I think we are all finished with our painting. Let's go ahead and sign our name because we are obviously proud of this. We just put a ton of work into it. So let's sign our painting wherever we'd like. And there we go. There is our raccoon. Thank you so much for joining me. I'd love to see your pictures, so send those our way, tag us in them, and hopefully I will be able to paint with you again really soon. Bye guys.